Hello, welcome back to Hello. I'm in Seattle now. Today was the first day of the NAVA conference, October 10th, and here's what happened today. So in NAVA, the organization, there's about 1,100 people, but of that 1,100 people, there was around 128 people that showed up, according to somebody I talked to. When you checked in at the hotel to the conference, the person who was checking people in was Ted K, which is the guy who wrote Good Flag, Bad Flag, and he signed it there, right there. And when you checked in, you got this little satchel thing. So here, NAVA 59. It has a whole bunch of stuff in it that I'll go over what it is and when I get back. I got a name badge back there. This was at one of the Seattle public libraries, the first part, and former Prime Minister Stephen J. Harper was speaking about it was a very cool talk. It was like the complicated history of the Canadian flag process and how that came to be as the modern flag. So after the Stephen J. Harper thing, that was around an hour and a half. I just talked to a bunch of people. I talked to I did. I briefly talked to Stephen J. Harper, just that was a really cool presentation and such. And then I talked with a few other people. I met some people who were similar in age to me. They're very fun to talk to about flags. They're very, very educated in everything they do with flags. And it was really cool conversations to have about representation and flags and such. And then directly after that, it was like 3 o'clock to 5 o'clock. And then 5:15, we went, there was like 3 restaurants you could go to, and me and the similarly aged people ate at a restaurant called the Wild Ginger. It was this like up-class Southeast Asian cuisine. That's what it was called. So it was very good. I got this bowl of soup. I don't remember what it was called. I didn't take a picture of it. But then I got a picture with the people, the similarly aged people. I'll have to ask them if I can put their face in the video, but they were very, very fun to talk to. Before this, we did this yesterday as well. We went to a place called Metzger Maps. And I got a whole bunch of flags there that I'll also show you when I get back. But it was really cool. I got a bunch of videos. I got a bunch of pictures of it. I'll put them up on the screen while I'm talking. It was really cool. We did a bunch of touristy things before we got to the conference. I'm excited for tomorrow because the 2 people that I met, who's similar to me in age, are doing a presentation Saturday and Sunday. So I'm excited for that tomorrow for Saturday. And I'll take some more pictures and videos there while I'm there. One other thing is, at the dinner, I got to meet one of the Flags for Good, the company, Flags for Good. I got to meet him, which is really neat. He has the podcast Flagged for Content. I've seen that. It's really neat. They have a really cool flag company, so I thought that was a really neat thing that he was just there, and he paid for our dinner. The kids that were there, he paid for our dinner, so that was really neat. The company did, Flags for Good. So that was a really cool thing. Hello, it's day 2, officially. It's Saturday. Saturday, October 11th. This is technically day 2 of NAVA, the first full day of stuff. This morning, there was an opening ceremony at 9. So before that, there's some booths where you can buy different things, and Flags for Good was selling their Flag for Content podcast flag. So I got that, and then I got a 3x5. They're fairly cheap. They have very high quality flags. And this 3x5 was $10. It was super cheap for a high quality flag. There's also this company that was one of the sponsors for the Seattle NAVA 59 called Small Flags. It's like SM and then like capital all flags. Here, I'll have to flip that. And they had this like display where it was all the U.S. state flags and then all the Canadian provinces, and they were this really cool display. And there was a raffle. I think you could win one of them, like one of the sets, for a raffle. But you had to answer questions about the flags. It was a kind of a quiz thing. So it was like, first question was like, which U.S. states sells the most of our stuff, and then which of the Canadian provinces and which size do we sell the most of. So for the U.S. state, I put Texas just because like Texas, like they're very very patriotic of their flag, and then for Canada, I put Quebec from the information that I learned from the presentation yesterday from Stephen J. Harper. And for the size of the patch, I put micro because I figured it was like the cheapest option, so it'd probably sell the best. An interesting thing, the reason why the former Prime Minister Stephen J. Harper was there was because he was a NAVA member, and they just had like a stroke of luck because he was writing a book about Canadian flags, which I might buy if there's copies here. And for this research, he joined NAVA, and then they asked him to present, so he presented. So he's like fully a NAVA member, and he was like here for the conference. I think he's going to be here tomorrow as well. So he was just kind of there. It was very weird because he's like he's a former Prime Minister of Canada. So it was hilarious to me. So anyway, so the opening ceremony there was a Zoom meeting with the president of FIAV, which it's a French acronym for, it's like an international vexillological federation thing. He said some things. His name is Jelko Hajmir. I did not say that right. He's from Croatia. He's been the FIAV president since 2019. And I also saw the flags of FIAV NAVA and the NAVA 59 flag for Seattle. And after that, there was a bunch of presentations. So the first person was John Edmond. He talked about the flags of 9/11 and some flags that were carried with like firefighters and detectives and stuff. It was very interesting. It went into 4 people's stories in 9/11. And then one of my friends that I've made in the past 2 days, he also presented. He's my age. His was titled "Sewed in Code: How Flags and Emojis Compare, Contrast, and Converge." This was a very interesting one. He dove into like the code of flags and like the standardization of emojis and how that evolved, and it was very interesting. Each of the presentations was about 30-ish minutes. And then after that, there was about like a 15-minute intermission, so I just went and looked at some more of the flags at the table where they're selling all the stuff. And then after that, there was 3 more presentations. First one was by Greg Dean. The title is "Where the Wild Things Roam: A Quantitative Tour Through the Vexillological Zoo." So this was very cool. He spent like months looking through data and looking through flags and just categorizing the animals and looking at trends of animals like mammals and birds and where they appeared most, and like the mythical animals. There's a whole bunch of cool pictures and graphics he put up on there. It was very cool. It was a very cool presentation overall. Right after him, there was a group of boys from a college in South Carolina that I cannot remember at this time. They talked about, theirs was called Exploring the Existence of the Word Liberty on the South Carolina Moultrie Flag. So they basically talked about, there was a guy, Moultrie, who talked about the word liberty appearing on like an older version of the South Carolina flag in a specific battle. But then they went into like how that could not be true, or like where it could be if it's. There's a whole bunch of stuff. It's very interesting. And they have their club. They have a club. I think it's like I think they founded it, and then they're part of NAVA in turn. Next was Steve Knowlton. He was virtual. I think there was some sort of commendation thing, so he was not present there, but he was presenting over Zoom. He talked about, so his was titled Be Distinctive or Be Related, Stylization, Genre, Judgment of Flag Design. And he talked about the modern style of like American cities, which you often see like, like Tulsa, Oklahoma, and like Salem, Oregon. But he was talking about there's a limit to how simplistic you can get and how much symbolism you can fit into such a little amount of space, to where like it's just like you can't recognize the symbolism unless you know what it is. Like an example was Daytona, North Carolina, I think, where the Wright brothers are from, and how the flag is like there's two stripes, which are supposed to be the wings of the plane. It's like it's too simplistic, essentially. And it was a very, very interesting take and interpretation of things. And he talked about Good Flag, Bad Flag by Ted Kay. So all his presentations were very interesting. So that went from like 9:15 to like 12. So after that, there was like a free for all lunch thing. So you just went wherever. But the first timers, myself included, and my new friends that I've made, went to a scheduled lunch with all the council members of NAVA. It was at, where was the place? Buca di Beppo. It's this Italian restaurant with like ridiculously big portions of food, so you just like share with people. And while we were walking there, it was very weird because like the former Prime Minister of Canada was like right next to me. It was very weird while we were walking to the restaurant. So that was very weird. Like he's, political figure. We got there, sat down, talked to the South Carolina college students, interesting people. And the president of NAVA sat like across from me. So we talked a lot about just the different things and how like there was a big shift in 2017 of like the inclusion of different people and like the exclusivity of it, and how it used to be like purely academic, and now it's a much more broad organization, and how NAVA used to be defined as just being United States and North America, and that's only where the NAVA meetings have been held is the United States and North America. But he was talking to me about broadening that to like actually North America. So, Canada, United States, all of Central America, Caribbean, and then he was talking about Greenland as a potential because they share a tectonic plate. They're within the North American tectonic plate. So in turn, they'd be, North America. After that, we walked to the Museum of History and Industry, which is known as MOHI, like an acronym. Again, very weird. I was walking. The former prime minister was right behind me. I got a picture. Got a few pictures. He was just like, it was just chilling. I don't think he had any security, and it was very funny, of, just like a regular guy, just walking around. But he was the prime minister of Canada at one point. So we were really behind. We were really late there because the lunch took so long. We had to take like a shorter tour, or a later tour, I guess, for like 3. And we stayed there till like 5. So what they did was they brought out their flag, like their flag collection. I took a whole bunch of pictures. I'll put them up as I'm talking about it. But like there was one from the 1904 St. Louis World's Fair. It was really neat. There was also like a piece of paper with a bunch of unidentified flags on it, so everybody had fun identifying them. So we stayed there until 5, and then we eventually walked back to the hotel where the actual conference is. And at that point, it was around 6, and there was a group photo. I'm gonna see if I could find the group photo somewhere. So I went up to my hotel room for a little bit, and then I went back down, and then I got some more stick flags that I'll unfurl when I get home. And at 7, there was a dinner presentation. It was called the Whitney Smith dinner, because the founder of NAVA is Whitney Smith, and I've talked about him in my Vexiday video last year. He's a very prominent figure in like vexillology and stuff like that. So I think his wife and his son were there as well. I talked to them briefly. Very interesting. So there were a bunch of awards given out. A man named Jim Farragon, he gave a speech. He was the guest speaker essentially. He gave a really long, really cool speech about his involvement in flags. Like he started in the 50s essentially, and now he eventually like joined NAVA and had interactions with Whitney Smith himself, and his involvement with the pride flag, like starting that, because he was a flag maker and he had a flag thing in San Francisco. So that was really neat. And after that, one of the friends that I've made here, who's presenting tomorrow, it's his birthday today, so we went down to the lobby and celebrated that. And then out of nowhere comes former Prime Minister Stephen J. Harper, just randomly. I didn't take a picture because he was just going into like the elevator or something, but it was still really funny to me. So second day, it was really fun. I had a bunch of really cool interactions with a bunch of people, and tomorrow will be the last day on Sunday. Hello. This is the final day of NAVA 59, day 3. Or day 2, whichever. So opening ceremony, oh wait, no, not opening ceremony. It started with State of NAVA, with the president of NAVA just kind of talking about stuff. But before that, there was I just looked at the booths again. Metzger Maps was there, which I had bought some stuff before, or from Metzger Maps before, but they were at the conference now. So I bought 2 flags, which I'll unbox when I get home. So that'll be a separate video. I'll show my Seattle flag haul essentially. And there was also like a silent auction. So I bid on one of the former NAVA flags. It was like NAVA 50, whatever one was in 2021, I think, because there was 2 that were virtual. I'll put both their flags up. And I bought the first one of the 2, and I won that silent auction at the end of the thing. But the State of NAVA, that was interesting. He basically just kind of thanked everybody who worked on NAVA 59 and all that fun stuff. And they also announced where NAVA 60 is going to be, which that is Indianapolis, which is closer than Seattle, which anything's closer than Seattle from where I live. So every 10 years, the NAVA flag, instead of being a rectangle, it has a swallowtail, which I'll show the examples of all the former NAVA flags, so the 10, the 20, 30, 40, 50, and then now the 60. So the 61 still needs to be designed, so I'm going to try to design it because I've learned so much from everything that's happened. Presentation started off with one of my friends, one of the friends that I've met. So he there's a big from what I can tell, there's a big like boating sport culture here in Seattle because of all the bodies of water, I guess, so this friend of mine is on a rowing team, so he's interested in the flags, or sorry, in boating and stuff, obviously flags. So there's flags on the oars, and it's he talked about the differences of like how, like at the national level, how they're displayed and how they're like reversed and stuff. It's very interesting to watch. There's a lot of presentations, so I'm gonna have to summarize some of these. Jackson Riddle, he made this flag of Seattle, like an unofficial flag of Seattle, based on a goodwill, like anti-Olympics kind of thing that happened in Seattle in like 1994 or the early 1990s. And it's interesting. And he talked about the entire story with that and like getting that into like businesses and stuff. So that was really interesting. After him was Perry Dane. He had a very similar in a paper in kind of more of like what I interpreted this more of like an addition to Steve Knowlton's, who presented yesterday virtually. There was a break between Jackson Riddle and Perry Dane. So the former Prime Minister of Canada, Stephen J. Harper, he came out with a book. That's why he's a NAVA member in the first place, just for research and stuff. So there was, I think, like 13 copies of the book left, and like a whole bunch of people wanted to buy it, and he was selling it for like a few dollars less than it was on Amazon or something. So there was it was kind of a raffle kind of thing or like 13 people were selected. There was a sign-up sheet, so I put my name on there because I wanted to, buy it. And I did get it, thankfully. So I went up to him and I got it signed. I'll show that in the Seattle Hall video. So after Perry Dane was Anthony Platoff. Yes, Platoff. I don't know. So Annie Platoff, her presentation was very interesting. It was a very niche subject of flags. There was these toy flags in the USSR that were given to kids basically to promote like their ideals, essentially. It was like propaganda. Their toys. It's very interesting. She specializes, from what I can tell, she specializes in USSR flags and memorabilia. And some of the pictures that I'm going to put up here, I'm taking pictures of the projections on I guess, but they appeared like rainbow for some reason. So I don't really know why they're rainbow. So that's why it looks weird. From now on, I'm pretty sure it looks like that. That was a very interesting presentation, and she collects them, I guess, and she went into like grouping them and all that fun stuff. Then after her was like it's a section called Vexy Bits, which was essentially like a flag show and tell, which was interesting. And what I didn't like, there was a whole bunch of things. I'll put the pictures up while I'm talking, but one of the main things that I was not expecting to see was Jim Farragon, which is a very prominent and very he's a veteran of vexillology. He brought like a one-piece flag because of the Nepal and Indonesia usage of the one piece or the straw hat flag. So I got a picture of him holding that. The whole show and tell was pretty neat. So the patches that I talked about yesterday, all the states and all the provinces. So if you got it right, you were eligible to get the provinces or the states, and they were valued at like $32 for the provinces and $102 for the states because there's more states, obviously. So I actually won that somehow out of like 30 people, I think. So I will also show those. Those are really cool. They're really, really high quality, like embroiderment. So after that was Graham Thale. He did a presentation on like leather pride. He's doing his like PhD on like pride flags and the evolution of pride flags. So he was very well versed, and it was a very interesting thing to see that, because I wasn't, aware of it all. It kind of stops, and while in between them, Ted K yells, "Stephen J. Harper's leaving." So Stephen J. Harper left, announced by Ted K. So I got a picture of that. So this reoccurring character throughout all of NAVA is gone. After that, My Grace Mizra, hers was titled "We're Going Flag Shopping: Racialized Othering and the United States Flag as Protective Gear." So it was about the discrimination of specific groups of people during, like, the Japanese internment camps and the civil rights movement and 9/11. So, like, physically wearing the flags as a sign that, like, I'm American, don't hurt me. That was a very cool presentation. Jacob Anaro, he was a senior is a senior in high school. His was Flag Doppelgangers, a study of unintentional vexillological resemblance. This was an interesting one. He dove into, like, why this happened, or like, how did this happen? How did these two places completely far away from each other make the same flag? The last presentation was by, his was flags of diaspora groups, and then they had a closing ceremony. It was basically thanking everybody for coming out and all the fun stuff. After that, there was some group dinners, and I went to the dinner. It was called Jack's Barbecue. It was like a Texas barbecue thing. So then there was one other thing planned for the night, which was the flag games. The flag game was really neat. There was 2 games that were made. They're made by the Flag for Content guy. The first game, it was called Flagged Star Rating. So it was a really cool idea where he wrote fake reviews, and then he put, like, a number of stars. So the example he gave, and the number of stars was how many stars were on the flag. So the example he gave is, looks too much like the US, 1 star, and that's obviously Liberian, because the Liberian flag looks too much like the US and also has 1 star. Like that. So that's how it went. It was very difficult. And then the second game was a game where you had to, it was very complicated, but once you were playing it, it was really, a really easy concept to get. What it was it was like a flag, like it was just like a base flag, and then it had the other exact same colors, like they took the hex code and put it on the other flag. So they put the colors of another flag on the flag. So the first one was like China, and it was the colors of Namibia, and you had to put that together. So like the first, like, it was like the first 2 letters, and then it was the first 3 letters, or the last 3 or the first 3. Like it was like China, Namibia, like China, Namibia. I'm not gonna spell the whole thing out. And there was like 15 of those, and eventually our team, I think we got like 4th place overall, because it was scored for all of them. So we got 9 out of 10 of the flags for the first round. And then I think we got 12 out of 15 for the second round, but we ended up getting 4th place. So we were Team Finland. But overall, the NAVA meeting was really cool. It was really informative. I met a lot of really cool people. I made some friends, I got their contact information, so I'm gonna keep in touch with those people. Hopefully I can be a more involved member in the future. I have a lot to learn from all these people. Were extremely smart, and they were so knowledgeable of everything with flags, and they're on a whole nother level than me. It was really cool to get everybody's, flag kind of niche or whatever. But like heraldry, I would love to learn more about that. There was so much allusion to that from everybody, like the people I talked to. there's so much symbolism in heraldry that I would love to learn. And one person gave me their business card. Well, it was just kind of like their card, I guess, and it had their coat of arms, I guess, and it was really cool. There's some cool symbolism in it. So overall, I really liked the NAVA meeting just as a whole. It was very fun to watch and to consume the papers. I'd love to do a paper myself next year. I'll have to pick something for that. Watch out for my Seattle flag hall video. So thank you for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this compilation of the 3 days, and please subscribe.